The Aborigines were deemed to be subhuman, little more than animals, which was to justify not only the theft of their land, but their extermination. An edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, still in circulation when I was at school, described them as only an animal of prey, more ferocious than the leopard or the hyena. He devours his own species. So they were hunted and raped and massacred. And few doubted at the time that genocide was official policy. A government report in the 1850s spoke of the success of poisoning Aborigines, 100 of them laid out at a time. But until quite recently, little of this was even acknowledged. In Tasmania, the Aborigines were said to have died out. In fact, they were hunted along with kangaroos and almost wiped out. In New South Wales, by 1845, the tribe who had watched Captain Cook sail here into Botany Bay was reduced to 3 women and a man. In Victoria, an Aborigine called Old Mr. Burt recalled this story told by his mother.
They buried our babies with only their heads above the ground. All in a row they were. Then they had a test to see who could kick the babies' heads off the furthest. One man clobbered a baby's head off from horseback. They then spent most of the day raping the women. Most of them were then tortured to death by sticking sharp things like spears up their vaginas until they died. They tied the men's hands behind their backs, then cut off their penis and testicles, and watched them run around screaming until they died.
One of the most enduring myths about the Aborigines is that they did not fight back. In fact, a war of resistance lasted more than a century, some of it here on the banks of the Hawkesbury River, north of Sydney. During the 1930s, my father built a cottage here, on the beach at an Aboriginal place called Patonga. I think we knew that somebody had lived at Patonga at some time, but no one talked about it. In fact, an entire nation had lived here on and off for thousands of years. They were called the Jurag, a unique Aboriginal people, tall and slender, whose country extended to a 40-mile radius north of Sydney, and the mighty Hawkesbury River was theirs. And when the British established the town of Windsor in the early 1800s, a great war began. This war was not recorded in the Imperial Chronicles of Australia. Growing up here, I knew nothing about it, and I suspect that's still true of the people in the smart beach houses here today. And yet the Jurag inflicted on the British a casualty rate greater than that sustained by the Australian Armed Forces during all of World War II. And finally, after 22 years, outnumbered and without guns, they went down fighting to the last man, woman and child, a complete nation. Today, in a land of many cenotaphs and war memorials on which invariably is written, "Lest we forget," not one of them stands for those who fought and fell in their own country. By the 1920s, the British invasion had caused the deaths of at least 250,000 black Australians. Genocide on a massive scale. But this fact remained suppressed, except in the living memory of those who survived. Here in the Northern Territory, in the great isolated heartland of Australia, the killing of Aborigines continued well into the 20th century, and most of these also remained secret. However, in 1928, 150 miles from Alice Springs, a gang of police and cattlemen massacred at least 50 Aborigines, perhaps many more, and word got out. A public inquiry was held, and its findings were summarized in these 3 words: the shooting was justified.
Hi, this is Lati.
And I'm Kiris. Kiris is our memorial for our Native American Indian genocide.
illegal. You're all illegal. You're all illegal. We didn't invite none of you here. We're the only Native Americans here. That's right. We're the only Native Americans here. You're all illegal. We didn't invite none of you.
Exactly.
We didn't invite none of you.
Exactly.
Get on with your bogus arguments. Get on with your bogus arguments. We're the only legal ones here.
We have Native Americans here.
Yeah. We should have put that sign up when you son of a bitches came. Yeah, that's right. It represents blood. That represents blood spilled by Native Americans protecting this land from the invaders. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You don't want to hear the goddamn truth, do you? Get on, bitch. You don't want to hear the truth. That's what that flag stands for. All the Native Americans you killed to plant your houses here. That's the truth. That's the truth. That's the truth.
And if the Interior Department does a bad job managing land, you ought to see what happens when they try to manage people. Often, the more the government helps, the worse things get. Look at what they did to the first Americans.
They put us in a little cage here, call it reservation.
We have the least life expectancy, less than Guatemala, less than Bolivia, Brazil. Hardly anyone reaches 65 anymore.
Activist Russell Means blames the Interior Department's Bureau of Indian Affairs, the agency that claims to help Indians by planning their lives.
We cannot make a plan or a decision without the express consent of the Secretary of Interior. We submit anywhere from 2 to 5 year economic plans. Does that sound like the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union and their failed economic plans?
Most of the crimes against the Indians were that of the government. The government goes in and ruins their lives, and it comes up and says, hey, you need us.
Charged with helping Indians and given tax money to spend billions on them, they created the poorest people in America.
But they still tell the world, we're taking care of our poor little Indians.
The Bureau of Indian Affairs can't even keep track of the Indians' money. More than $2 billion of it is unaccounted for.
Yet no one is even reprimanded. No one's indicted. No one's demoted. No one is fired. No one is even named.
Just more billions lost in the bureaucracy. And where might the money be? I wanted to ask then Secretary of the Interior, Bruce Babbitt. He agreed to an interview, and his staff had us set up our camera gear in his conference room. But when Babbitt arrived, he seemed to change his mind.
I'm not sure why I'm here. I mean, you know, another expose. It's all in a day's business, I understand. Okay, well, let's have at it.
Okay. But before I could ask him anything, he decided he didn't want to talk.
I'm going to fire whoever scheduled this interview.
Why?
Well, what's the name of the show?
We haven't titled it yet. It's probably...
Okay. The government is wasting your money. They are corrupt and incompetent.
Well, I wouldn't say corrupt. I would argue competent.
Yeah, you'd say incompetent. Look, I'm getting less and less interested in doing this interview. I got to tell you, I really am. I'm not sure how I got here, but
well, we told you it was a consumer report on government. Told your staff.
Yeah. Look, I really don't want to do this now.
And that was that. The interview was over. Now his department wants Congress to give more money to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Should they get it? Should they exist at all?
There's no Bureau of Jewish Affairs. There's no Bureau of Irish Affairs. There's no Bureau of Black or African Affairs.
They sit up there in Washington, D.C., and they legislate laws that affect us, when in fact, they don't know what the heck's going on here.
Les Jarawars ont vécu 35 000 ans sur les îles Andaman, sans contact avec notre monde. Jusqu'à présent, ils ont réussi à conserver leur mode de vie. Mais aujourd'hui, ils sont menacés de disparition à très court terme.
Le gouvernement indien a décidé de les assimiler afin de s'accaparer leur territoire. Les Jarawars vivent sur des plages magnifiques qui attirent la convoitise des promoteurs touristiques.
Une route traverse leur forêt. Elle est empruntée 2 fois par jour par un convoi militaire qui accompagne des dizaines de véhicules chargés de touristes. Ceux-ci espèrent prendre des Jarawa en photo. Un véritable zoo humain. Pourtant, les autorités indiennes ont interdit tout contact avec eux sous peine de prison.
La Cour suprême indienne a ordonné la fermeture de cette route de la honte, en vain. Dernièrement, le gouvernement indien a même décidé de l'élargir. Des travaux qui pourraient durer des mois et qui vont accélérer, sans aucun doute possible, la disparition des Jarawa. Les journalistes n'ont pas le droit de rencontrer les Jarawa. Cette interdiction ne sert pas à les protéger, mais plutôt à les isoler, afin que personne ne sache ce qui se passe réellement.
C'est pourquoi nous avons estimé qu'il était indispensable de recueillir leurs paroles. Ils ont le droit absolu de décider par eux-mêmes de leur avenir.
Nous avons outrepassé l'interdiction de les rencontrer, afin de leur donner la parole. Évidemment, nous avons pris toutes les précautions nécessaires pour éviter de leur transmettre des maladies.
Ce qu'ils nous ont appris est terrible. Des braconniers pillent leur gibier avec la complicité des gardes forestiers indiens censés les protéger. Bientôt, les Jarawa n'auront plus rien à manger.
Ini nak ikut atiba. Moi lihat. Angan. Ti otiwa dimuta vet kwelo tu. Dalat ini nak ditinin jang ne.
Tanga kami oi tu ai ba. Nga mina ho di tu mau du ta ga. Sao ding tu mau du ta. Anga bebe dang. Kya da tung ti mina ti tu thau jam.
Ikawat ini nak awati ho latu na dingwe. He ho to ya ta pada dingwe. Tika to bele ita porta. Tache cukur di berti di lihat udah ini nak teh ikan latu. Waka ha ini nak di berti. Taruang. Tiko he. Tiha. Pilot angwe. Ita ada mia dah udah tiha. Ini nak dah. Tosi pada mele dah oi tak kamu dah pada hati pada agak tiida ni deh siapa kot kole Allah hitting oi teko kaisili ni deh topalu lihe Allah mitul cehata.
En rencontrant les Jarawa, nous avons découvert un peuple extraordinaire qui a conservé intact son bonheur de vivre. Nous sommes certains qu'à votre tour, ils vont vous bouleverser.
It is in a remote area, Burma, that we have seen what turned us upside down. A forgotten people, slaughtered. Why? Because of their identity.
In Burma's Rakhine state, the fires have been burning for weeks. Homes have been razed and lives taken by hate-filled mobs. Ethnic Buddhists and the minority Muslims blame each other for the violence, but the facts are hard to come by. International NGOs have pulled their staff out, too dangerous, they say, while Burma's government won't let independent observers.
Unwilling to really look at the reality of the situation on the ground for many ethnic minorities in Burma, and this is a real mistake. I think people shouldn't be charmed into thinking that just because there's a parliament now that's passing a few laws that things are all okay in Burma.
Whereas the Rohingya tragedy is well known to all, to politicians, to organisations, it continues to intensify. Those who claim to be for peace have left a deafening silence, an incomprehensible indifference. What can we say or think towards such savagery?
of men and women and children who do not have the freedom that you enjoy everyday life.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more, people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs and voices never shared.
I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
The sound of silence. Fool said I, you do not know. Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words and I might teach you. Take my arms and I might reach you. But my words, like silent raindrops, fell and echoed